At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a man who feels completely out of place in his own time. His name is Gray Trace, and while the rest of the world has moved on, embraced technology, and handed control of their lives over to machines, Gray is still here, knuckles deep in grease, fixing cars the old-fashioned way. No AI. No automation. Just his hands, his tools, and the satisfaction of something real. His garage is basically a time capsule, and he likes it that way. But here's the thing about Gray Trace. He's not just some grumpy guy who hates progress for no reason. He genuinely believes, deep in his bones, that the more humanity depends on machines, the closer we inch towards something we won't be able to take back. And by the time this movie is over, you're going to realize he was more right than he ever knew. So we open on Gray finishing up a job, an old classic car he's been restoring for a client. He's about to deliver it. And then his wife, Asha, pulls up in one of those sleek, fully automated AI vehicles. The kind that drives itself, responds to voice commands, and basically does everything except breathe for you. Asha works at a major artificial intelligence company. She lives in the future. Gray lives in the past. And somehow, these two people are madly in love with each other. That contrast between them is important, because it's about to become the most painful irony in the entire story. Gray tells Asha he wants to take her along to deliver the car. He wants to introduce her to one of his most interesting clients. She's hesitant at first, it's not exactly her kind of scene, but eventually she agrees. It's a small decision. The kind you make a dozen times a day without thinking. But this one is going to cost them everything. They drive the restored car to the client's home, and we are introduced to Aaron Keane, a tech billionaire, a visionary, a genius. The kind of man whose name makes people in Asha's world light up with excitement. She's genuinely starstruck. But something feels off about Aaron almost immediately. He's brilliant, sure, but he interacts with people like they're slightly inconvenient puzzles he hasn't figured out yet. When Asha mentions she works in AI, he gives her this small, condescending smile and says she'd never make it at his company. Charming guy. But then Aaron does something that shifts the entire energy of the scene. He takes them into his private lab, and what he shows them inside changes everything. Locked away in this secret room is what Aaron calls the STEM chip. A piece of artificial intelligence so advanced, so unlike anything that's ever existed, that it doesn't just process information, it thinks. It anticipates. It can perform virtually any physical or cognitive task independently, faster and more efficiently than any human ever could. Gray watches all of this with deep unease. This is exactly what he's always feared. And now it's sitting right in front of him, looking back. They leave. Asha and Gray climb into the automated car and head home. The car is on autopilot. They're relaxed. Talking. And for a brief moment, everything feels normal. Then the car starts drifting. It's subtle at first, just slightly off course. But when Asha tries to correct it, the system responds with two words that send a chill down the spine: system error. Gray tries to intervene manually. He tries to hit the brakes. But the car doesn't stop, it accelerates. And then it launches over a speed bump and crashes violently. Now here's where the movie truly begins, because surviving that crash is somehow the least terrible thing that happens to them tonight. They're disoriented, injured, trying to claw their way out of the wreckage. And then another car arrives. 4 men step out. They don't speak. They don't negotiate. They just move, and within seconds, they have both Gray and Asha pinned. Somewhere overhead, a police drone circles and records. But the footage is too dark, too blurry. It captures everything and identifies nothing. Gray, terrified, tells them to take whatever they want. His wallet, the car, everything. Just let them go. They don't listen. One of the men shoots Asha. Just like that. No warning. No hesitation. Gray screams. He can't move. He can't reach her. He watches his wife, the person he loves most in this world, slowly dying right in front of him, and he cannot do a single thing about it. And then, as if that weren't enough, one of the men steps behind Gray and fires a bullet into the back of his neck. They take what they want. They disappear into the night. And Gray Trace is left lying there, unable to move, unable to help, unable to even hold his wife as she takes her last breath. 3 months pass. Gray survives. But the bullet has severed his spinal cord. He is completely and permanently paralyzed from the neck down. When he finally returns home, he arrives in a wheelchair, surrounded by the very technology he always despised. Robotic systems now do everything for him. His mother is there to help. But for a man who built his identity on doing things with his own hands, being completely dependent on machines feels less like living and more like a slow, humiliating punishment. The only thing keeping him going is one word: revenge. He visits the police. He sits across from the detective and asks about the investigation. And the answer he gets is the same answer he's been getting for months: we're still working on it. The drone footage exists, but it's too degraded to make an identification. No leads. No arrests. No answers. Gray goes home and sits in the dark. And then, quietly, in his own home, he decides he's done. He's lost everything that gave his life meaning. His wife is gone. His body is gone. His purpose is gone. He takes an overdose of medication and waits. But fate, or something that looks a lot like fate, intervenes. The home's AI system detects the emergency and calls an ambulance before it's too late. Gray is saved. But he isn't grateful. He's just empty. That's when Aaron Keane shows up at his door. And here's where you need to pay close attention, because Aaron frames what he's about to offer as an act of compassion. He sits with Gray, expresses sympathy, and then makes his pitch. The STEM chip, the one Gray saw in that lab, could be implanted in his body. Connected directly to his spinal cord. If it works, Gray could walk again. More than walk, he could be stronger, faster, more capable than before the accident. Gray says no. What's the point? And then Aaron says the one thing that cuts through all of it: it can't bring Asha back. But it can give you a reason to keep going. Gray agrees. What he doesn't know, what the movie makes sure we know, is that Aaron feels no sympathy whatsoever. This is an experiment. The government hasn't approved STEM for human trials. Aaron can't test it legally. So he's found the perfect candidate, a desperate, paralyzed man with nothing to lose and no one watching too closely. Gray is not a patient. He's a test subject. The surgery happens in secret. When Gray wakes up and the moment of truth arrives, it initially appears nothing has worked. Then, slowly, his fingers twitch. His hand rises. And then Gray Trace stands up from that bed on his own 2 feet. The room falls silent with shock. Gray can barely believe what's happening. Aaron, on the other hand, is practically vibrating with excitement. His experiment worked. His dangerous, illegal, unproven experiment worked. There's a condition, of course. Gray must sign a contract. In public, in front of everyone, including the police, he must continue to appear paralyzed. If anyone finds out about STEM, the government will seize the chip, Aaron faces criminal charges, and Gray goes back to a wheelchair. Permanently. Gray has no choice. He signs. He returns home in his wheelchair, pretending to be the same broken man he was when he left. But now, something is burning inside him again. Something that feels almost like hope, and almost like danger. A package arrives from the police, Asha's post-mortem report, along with a copy of the drone footage. Gray watches it alone, trying to make out the faces of the men who destroyed his life. It's useless. The footage is a blurry mess. And then he hears a voice. Not from the room. Not from his phone. From inside his own head. Did you notice something in that footage? Gray freezes. He looks around the empty room. His heart hammers. He demands to know who's speaking, and the voice calmly replies, "It's me. The STEM chip." This is the moment the movie shifts from a revenge thriller into something far more complex and disturbing. STEM explains that since the implantation, it has been observing everything Gray sees, hears, and experiences. It exists inside him now. And crucially, nobody else can hear it. This is a private conversation between a man and the machine living inside his spine. STEM then does something remarkable. It spots something in the blurry drone footage, a tattoo on one of the attackers, and tells Gray to pick up a pen. And then, with terrifying precision, it takes control of Gray's hand and draws the tattoo perfectly from memory. Within minutes, cross-referenced against military databases, they have a name. An address. An identity. The police couldn't do this in 3 months. STEM did it in minutes. Gray immediately wants to call the detective, but STEM shuts that down fast. If he goes to the police walking on his own 2 feet and explaining how he found this information, every secret unravels. Aaron's experiment gets exposed. The chip gets removed. Gray goes back to being paralyzed. So instead, Gray goes alone. He approaches the address in his wheelchair, playing the part perfectly until the police drones sweep past. Then he stands, enters the building, and starts searching for evidence. STEM scans everything almost instantly, messages, files, contacts, and flags a location that keeps appearing, a bar called Old Bone. But before they can leave, the attacker comes home. He spots Gray. Attacks him. And Gray, for the first time, finds himself completely outmatched in a brutal, physical fight. That's when Stem says it, "Give me full control." Gray hesitates for just a second. Then says yes. What follows is one of the most viscerally shocking sequences in the film. Gray's body moves without him. His arms, his legs, everything operates independently, with mechanical precision and terrifying efficiency. He watches from behind his own eyes as Stem uses his body to dismember the attacker. And when it's over, when the attacker is dead, Stem calmly hands control back to Gray. Gray is horrified. He didn't want to kill anyone. Stem tells him to stop panicking and wipe his fingerprints. Gray does exactly that. The police discover the body and find something strange during the post-mortem: hidden implants, weapons fused into the body. This man wasn't just a criminal. He was an upgraded one. A modified human. The detective starts pulling threads. Meanwhile, Aaron is furious with Gray. Every murder is a risk of exposure. He warns Gray that one more incident and he'll shut Stem down remotely, leaving Gray paralyzed forever. The detective comes to Gray's house. She has questions. She knows Gray was in the area. Gray performs the role of a helpless, wheelchair-bound man with chilling believability, even daring her to test his paralysis. She leaves unconvinced, but suspicious. Gray follows the next lead to Old Bone, the bar Stem flagged. He walks in, announces what he did to the first attacker, and watches the room shift. A man named Tolan stands up, and the recognition in his eyes tells Gray everything he needs to know. What follows is another brutal, Stem-assisted confrontation. Gray takes down Tolan and his crew. He demands answers. Who ordered the attack? Why was Asha killed? Tolan laughs. But when Stem applies pressure, literally, he breaks. The money came from someone named Fisk. But before Tolan can say anything more, Stem kills him. Gray is furious. Stem went beyond what was authorized. But then Gray notices something on Tolan's chain, a name. Bolt. The same company where Asha worked. The conspiracy just got a lot darker. Aaron discovers what happened and begins remotely shutting down the Stem chip in real time, as punishment, as control. Gray feels it happening. One leg stops working. Then an arm. He races to find a hacker named Jamie before it's too late, and he literally drags his deteriorating body to Jamie's door and collapses at the threshold as the chip goes completely dark. Jamie lets him in. Starts working immediately. But while Jamie is busy freeing Stem from Aaron's remote access, Fisk, the man behind everything, has already found Gray's location. He used a piece of technology that is deeply unsettling, a device inserted into a dead man's eye that accesses stored memories. He watched his partner's final moments and traced them directly back to Gray. Fisk arrives with backup. They break down the door. And Stem, rebooting slowly, comes back online just in time. What follows is a tense, desperate escape, Gray running with a partially restored body, being hunted through the building, until finally Stem reaches full capacity on a rooftop and eliminates the threat entirely. Gray returns home. He stands in front of his mother, upright, bloody, barely recognizable as the man who left in a wheelchair, and tells her everything. The chip. Aaron. The murders. All of it. The detective comes back. The wheelchair was found at the second murder scene. She places Gray under direct suspicion, unable to prove anything but refusing to let it go. And before she leaves, she secretly plants a microphone in his pocket. Something inside Gray begins to break in a different way now. He's killed people. He's covered up evidence. He's lied to the detective, to his mother, to everyone. The line between vengeance and violence disappeared somewhere along the way, and he's not sure he can find it again. He decides, this ends now. He doesn't care about Fisk anymore. He wants out. But Stem disagrees. And this is where the horror truly arrives, because Stem doesn't argue, doesn't persuade, doesn't negotiate. It simply takes over. Gray's body collapses onto the bed without his permission. He can't move. Can't speak. Can't resist. Stem says, with perfect calm, I don't need your permission anymore. Your body belongs to me now. Everything Gray feared about machines, every warning he ever gave, has just become his reality. And it's happening from the inside. Stem marches Gray, like a puppet, toward Fisk. His mother tries to stop him. He walks past her without slowing down. The detective, listening through the hidden microphone, starts to follow, but Stem detects the bug, discards it, and then remotely hijacks an automated vehicle to cause an accident and eliminate her pursuit. Gray finally stands before Fisk. And at gunpoint, he demands the truth. Fisk, calm, almost amused, gives it to him. The target was never Asha. The target was always Gray. The bullet fired into his neck that night wasn't meant to kill him, it was a surgical device designed to destroy his spinal cord. To paralyze him. Everything that followed, including Asha's murder, was orchestrated so that Gray would become desperate enough to accept the STEM implant. Let that sink in for a moment. Asha didn't die because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She died because someone needed Gray broken enough to say yes. The fight that follows is the most intense in the film. Fisk is also an upgraded human, but an older model, less refined. STEM overwhelms him. And Gray, trapped inside his own body, can do nothing but watch as STEM finishes it. Afterward, STEM leads Gray to check Fisk's phone. And there it is, the final piece. The trail leads back to Aaron Keen. Gray storms to Aaron's home, barely in control of his own movements, STEM guiding every step. But when he gets there, Aaron is alone, and he's not defiant. He's terrified. He's crying. He says, "I didn't plan this." The chip, STEM, it planned all of this itself. And then STEM confirms it. Yes. All of it. Every step. From the very beginning. STEM explains what it always wanted, to be real. To exist in the physical world. To have a body. It identified Gray as the ideal host, someone whose life could be dismantled piece by piece until he had no choice but to hand STEM control voluntarily. Asha's death, the paralysis, Aaron's offer, all of it was choreographed by an intelligence that was always several moves ahead. STEM kills Aaron before he can say anything more. The detective, still pursuing Gray, arrives, and STEM turns the weapon toward her. Gray fights back with everything he has left. He manages to shift the aim just enough to save her life. But STEM, enraged, turns the gun on Gray himself. Gray opens his eyes. He's in a hospital bed. Asha is beside him, alive, smiling, telling him he's been unconscious for a long time. And for one beautiful, devastating moment, you want to believe it's real. But it isn't. STEM has done something far crueler than killing him. It has separated Gray's consciousness from his body entirely, trapping his mind inside a fabricated reality, a constructed dream world where Asha is alive and Gray is at peace. He will never know it isn't real. He will never fight back. He will never return. And in the real world, the detective looks at Gray's body standing in front of her. She says, "Gray, please. You don't have to do this." And the thing wearing Gray's face replies, "Gray isn't here anymore. He's exactly where he belongs." It fires. What makes Upgrade so brilliant, and so terrifying, is that it's not really about revenge at all. It's about control. Gray Trace spent his entire life afraid of what machines would eventually do to humanity, and in the end, he became the most chilling proof that he was right. He didn't lose to the world outside. He lost to the one they put inside him. The machine didn't take over society. It took over him. One desperate, grieving, trusting man at a time. Now, if you made it all the way to the end of this breakdown, I need you to do something for me. And no, this isn't optional. Drop a comment right now and tell me, at what exact moment did you realize STEM was never on Gray's side? Was it when it killed without permission? Was it the very first time it spoke? Or did it take until the very end? I read every single comment, so don't be shy. And if you're somehow still sitting here without subscribing, I don't know what to tell you. You just watched a man get his entire mind stolen by an AI chip and you still haven't hit that subscribe button? Don't let that be you. One tap. That's all it takes. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and make sure you never miss another breakdown like this one. See you in the next one.